Hey guys, how are you all enjoying this borderline apocalyptic coronavirus lockdown time? Welcome back to Vicurious. With everyone quarantined at home with all this craziness of coronavirus, I thought I'd share a little bit about my experience of being in lockdown in San Francisco. I'll be covering three main topics. Number one is exercise, number two is investments, and number three is Parasite. Yes, based on the movie Parasite. So San Francisco is actually pretty crazy right now. We're pretty much in full lockdown mode. I've actually been working from home for the past month, so I do feel kind of trapped in my room here. And the only reason that I really leave my house is actually just for groceries. All right, so we're at Costco right now, and holy crap, the line is so long. They limited the capacity, and there's like 200 people in line right now. And we're here at 9:15 a.m. 9:15 a.m.
15 minutes late.
Yeah, the place opened at 9, and there's like 200 people in line right now. Crazy. Besides that, I'm enjoying the California weather from my window. So people are definitely on edge with all this COVID stuff going on. For example, the last two times I went grocery shopping, people started arguing in line. There was one dude who was standing a little too close to some lady in front of him in the line, and she basically lashed out saying, "It's the 6 foot rule, you're standing way too close to me, sir, please back off." And then he's obviously yelling back at her now because, her tone wasn't the greatest. So people are definitely on edge here. One crazy dystopian idea that I had to myself was, what if this is the start to a 20-year, global pandemic where people are forced to stay at home during that entire time? We'll be telling our kids, hey, like back in my day, we used to go out and meet people. There was no such thing as Zoom. Kind of dark, kind of dystopian, but pretty interesting. You never know. All right, so number one, exercise. I normally go to the gym around 4 or 5 times a week, and having all these gyms close around me, it's a pretty big deal. So I want to give you guys a few ideas in terms of what I do at home to at least get some exercise. So in terms of equipment, I actually bought jump rope. And I've never really used jump ropes in the past, but it's been a really good way to get some cardio in. You can stand in place without having to, run around the block or anything. So it's a good way to get your heart running. I even thought to myself, even after all this coronavirus stuff is over, jump rope is going to be really good, especially when you go traveling. It's super light. You can shove it into a small corner in your, suitcase. So even after things settle down, I think jump ropes are still going to be things that I use and take it with me when I go traveling. Plus on Amazon, it only costs $7. Number two, my roommate actually bought a pull-up bar for the house. He said it only cost $60, and it's been super helpful because it's able to work out a lot of different muscles in your arms that are normally really, really tough to do without the pull-up bar. So I've been using that pretty regularly. I highly, highly recommend it. If you do have the chance, definitely get one. And lastly, I've been seeing a lot of push-up challenges on Instagram. It's like see 25, do 25, and you just pass it on to your friend. I've given myself my own push-up challenge to do every day actually, and it's 100 push-ups a day. I can't do all 100 at once, but I break it down. Do 40 and then 2-minute break, 30, 2-minute break, 20, 2-minute break, and then 10. At first it was really, really hard, but slowly it gets easier and easier. I think with everyone being quarantined, there are going to be two different types of people. There's going to be one group that is going to be really lazy. They're going to be watching a lot of Netflix, playing a lot of video games, just chilling around, and they're going to come out of this less healthy. And then there's a second group, and they're going to notice that their body's deteriorating just chilling at home. So they're actually going to be working out even harder and possibly come out of this quarantine even healthier. So that's my goal, to work out super hard and actually come out more fit than when I became quarantined and trapped at home. And this is a clip of me and my roommates doing a pretty intense workout.
And then, lastly, our favorite, we're gonna finish by jumping.
I hate jumping.
Fucking shit.
I'll throw up.
The idea is to pull up on the surface and bring your body up.
So the second thing I want to talk about was investments. If you have not been considering investing at this time, I highly recommend that you look into it if you have the available funds for it. Now, with all the coronavirus stuff, the economy is down, and the whole idea is that eventually the market will bounce back. So this is a good time to purchase/invest. I personally think that the market's going to go down a little bit more. I think more jobs are going to be lost. I think a lot of small businesses are going to go out of business. But I'm not an economist or anything. It can go either way, up or down. But the thing that I wanted to talk to you about was the difference between active investing and passive investing. So some of my friends have said, hey, which airline stock should I buy because these airlines are getting bailouts from the government? Or, should I invest in Zoom because video conferencing is getting so big while everyone's quarantined? Usually when people are asking me about individual stocks, they're doing active investing. So let me just read you the definition. The goal of active investing is to beat the stock market's average returns and take full advantage of short-term price fluctuations. It involves a much deeper analysis and the expertise to know when to pivot into or out of a particular stock, bond, or any asset. So what does this mean? It means you're trying to buy specific stocks one by one in the hopes of beating the stock market. Now, the problem with this for most people is that it involves a lot of research. You have to actually know a lot about the company, know their business, know the competitors, in order to truly know whether they're going to do well or not. But most people, what they seem to be doing, at least the people around me, they just hear about it in the news a couple of times, or they hear a friend mention that company and they say, hey, I want to buy that stock now. Look, there's probably a lot of people out there that are, number one, really smart. Number two, spending a lot of time researching. And number three, have data points in order to gather insights that you just do not have access to. So these are the people that you're competing with who are also trying to beat the market. So there are two main reasons why I'm personally not a huge fan of active investing. Number one, time. I just don't have the time to keep researching all these companies every time I invest, or if I want to pull out my investments. I just don't have the time for that. Number two, I just want to ride that wave back up. As I said, because of all this craziness right now, the economy is down. I personally think that the economy is going to go back up, and I just want to ride that wave. So for you, if you want to ride that wave as well, and you don't have the time to actually research all these different companies, passive investing is probably better than picking stocks one by one. So passive investing is for people who are in it for the long term. The strategy involves a little bit more of a buy and hold mentality. So that essentially you're going to be buying your investments and you're going to be holding onto them for a long time. And the idea is that over time, the markets are going to continue to increase. So you're going to ride that wave and net more money than what you started off with. So two really good examples of these are ETFs, or otherwise known as exchange traded funds, and index funds. Both are significantly cheaper than a typical mutual fund. And what they do is they track the market. So all you have to do is put your money into these ETFs or index funds, and they're going to track like the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones. So now, instead of having to do the research and picking stocks one by one, if the market goes up, these ETFs and index funds are just going to track with it. So you don't even have to be a genius and know all these companies inside out. You just have to invest and just be patient. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but if you are interested, definitely search up passive investing. Just Google it. There's so many good articles on it. So the last thing I want to talk to you guys about today is a movie called Parasite. If you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend. It's surprising because the movie's all in Korean, but it got a lot of international recognition. It got Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best International Feature Film. So if you guys haven't seen it, it's basically about this poor family that finds this rich family and just leeches onto them. They'll make up lies and do jobs like, being their driver or being their maid, and essentially just try to take as much money as possible from that rich family. Now, the movie itself, just from the storyline, is really great, but there's almost a whole new meta to this when you start searching up Parasite hidden meanings or Parasite themes on Google. So I did just that, and there's this one really interesting one that basically says, look, this poor family is the parasite in the movie, but the underlying theme is that the rich are actually the parasite. So the reason for this is because the rich family is pretty much using the poor family. For example, they'll ask them to cook them their food, to drive them around, to tutor their kids. And sure, they're paying them money to do all these things, but the money that they're paying pretty much has no impact to them. It's just pocket change. But for the poor family, it doesn't really cause a major impact to their overall lives. For example, the poor family is still living in this really bad neighborhood, their house gets flooded. It's not a great time. So essentially, it's almost the other way around, where the rich family is depending on the poor family and the rich are pretty much the parasites. So one thing I've been thinking about is, am I the parasite? I think many of us are very fortunate in life, whether that is they have a pretty good career, they have supportive friends and family. And at least for me, I feel like sometimes I do take those things for granted and I almost turn a blind eye to the things around me. So here are a couple examples just to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. So with all the coronavirus stuff, there was a huge shortage on hand sanitizers. All the Walgreens that I went to, they were all sold out. I couldn't find them anywhere. But I was lucky enough to be working in tech. Literally went to one conference and they had hundreds of these mini hand sanitizers available. I just picked one up for free. Didn't really think too much about it. It's so easy to forget about the hardships that people are having around us. In my example, after I got the hand sanitizer, I completely forgot about how tough it was for others to actually get it. And that's kind of the situation that we see in the movie Parasite as well. Basically, the poor go unnoticed to the rich people, even though they're doing all their dirty work and making sure that the rich have a good living. So let's take another example. Let's say Uber Eats or whatever your food delivery app is. On my end, I do deliver time to time, and I'll try to reduce the cost as much as possible. I'll see like a $5 delivery fee. I'm like, what the heck? Like, what is this? Why is it so expensive? On the other side of this are the people actually delivering the food, and they're essentially risking their lives to do this, usually out of necessity because they need that extra income. Well, why does this remind me of Parasite again? Well, I'm at home, super comfy, super privileged, and I'm pretty much relying on these people that are helping to deliver food, and here I am trying to reduce costs as much as possible. I'll sometimes even change the default 15% tip to the 10% tip. So the message I want to convey is that unknowingly, each and every one of us could be the parasite in our lives. And I'm not someone that's rich or anything, but I do admit I'm super lucky and very privileged. I remember I read somewhere that privilege is not in and of itself bad. What matters is what we do with privilege. Privilege does not have to be negative, but we have to share our resources and take direction about how to use our privilege in ways that empower those who lack it. So I actually really agree with that comment. I admit that I have been very selfish about my privilege very often, and that sometimes I am very hesitant to share those resources with other people. And to some people, that makes a lot of sense. If you have additional resources, you want to invest it in yourself so that you become a better person and that you grow. 100%, I agree with that. And I'm not saying to completely change your life around or donate half of all your net worth or anything, but do the small things. Going back to that Uber Eats example, try to tip more, or they recently opened up this option to do like a $5 contribution to the restaurant directly. So take part in that. Little by little, try to help out your community, because I think the more we help each other out, the bigger the impact it'll be on our communities. So one thing that my friend showed me is an app called Share the Meal. And it's actually by the United Nations, and the purpose is to help the people that are a little bit less fortunate. It's super, super affordable. It's actually 50 cents to feed a child for a day. So let me put that into perspective. Let's say you gave $3.50, which is less than your Starbucks coffee, which you're probably not even going to finish anyways. You give $3.50 and you feed a child for a week. So super, super impactful. I'm not, donating a crazy amount or anything like that, but even little by little, I think it's super, super helpful for the people that need it. So I have a question for you guys. Especially during this time when the economy is not doing so well, you can do two things. You could do investing, which is one of the things I talked about, or you could share your resources, which is also what I talked about. And these are innately two conflicting ideas, because one is, let's say, investing into the market. You want to grow your net worth. You want to, make your money work for itself. That's not a bad thing. But then on the other side is the idea of sharing your resources for the people that really need it right now. And, one is taking away from the other. I do believe that there's a balance. To be honest, I don't really know what that balance is for me fully, but I did want to open up the question for you guys to ask what is the right balance for you? And the main thing I want to give to you guys is just think about that question. If you feel like you're way too skewed for, one or the other, whether it's investing or sharing resources, just think about it again and say, am I at the right balance that I need for my life? Am I investing for myself and sharing and helping the people around me? So, next time you're making a decision, take a look around, do that internal question for yourself, and maybe, hopefully, we become less of those parasites. Thanks for listening.